What's going on? It's Chris with Dan Libby Refrigeration, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Sunday. Gotta go help my sister, she called. Got no heat. Well, when you know what you're doing, you gotta help people out. So, it's part of it. Anyway, Sunday, talking about tips for new HVAC techs. When to ask for help, right? So once you get going in the HVAC world, right, as a service tech, as a new guy, eventually, hopefully within the first few months, you're going to get cut loose on your own, right? So that's the goal of every company, is to have their techs be self-sufficient, right? So you'll get in a truck, you'll be on your own, you'll be getting service calls sent to different places, whatever, right? So efficiency is key. We definitely could talk more about that, as far as knowing everything in your truck, right? Having your truck be organized, know where everything is, know what you have on your truck, right? Same thing with your tool bag, where all your tools are, right? So if you're not fumbling around looking for parts or looking for your tools, of course you're going to be more efficient. But knowing when to call for help, right? Typically, I would say within the first, depending on the equipment and where it's located and all that stuff, but within the first 15 to 20 minutes, if you haven't figured it out, or you don't know what direction to go, or you're stumped, within the first 15 minutes, make a phone call, okay? Because after that, you're just wasting time, all right? So 15, 20 minutes of you investigating, diagnosing, checking things out. If you still don't know which direction to go, or you haven't figured out the issue, you need to make a phone call. With that being said, within those 15 to 20 minutes time frame, if you haven't pulled up or have a schematic or don't know the sequence of operation or have a service manual of that equipment, don't place a phone call, right? So get on scene or site, start diagnosing. Well, let's back up a little. Get on site, walk up to a piece of equipment that you've never worked on before, or you don't know nothing about. You should already be downloading the service manual on that piece of equipment if there's not one on site, okay? Then you start diagnosing it, going through all the checks and procedures that the manufacturer tells you in the service manual, and then you still don't know what's up, make a phone call, okay? So you don't look like an idiot. I had a service tech call me, said he couldn't figure it out. I show up and the cover isn't even off the unit, let alone a manual is not pulled up. He didn't even have the freaking cover off the freaking thing. So what is he doing? Just standing there looking at the exterior of it? I guess so, right? So have your manual, have a schematic, do your own troubleshooting, trying to figure it out. You still can't figure it out, 15, 20 minutes, make a phone call, right? Nobody should be mad at you for that. Your service manager, the owner of the company, whoever's training you, right? If you've done those things and you just don't want to waste time, you got to make the phone call, right? All right, so that's my tip there. The other portion of that tip is learning and knowing the correct nomenclature or names of the equipment and the parts that you're working on, right? And the reason that's so important is, number one, when you go to order the parts, right, you got to call them the correct thing. Number two, if you're a service tech out in the field, one of my new guys, and you're working on something and you call me, I'm not there. I'm not looking at what you're looking at. So if you're calling these parts the wrong names, I'm trying to follow what you're doing. And if you don't know what they're called, or you're calling them the wrong things, it's going to be really hard for me to visualize and follow what you're looking at, which it's going to make it that much harder or even impossible for me to try to help you, right? So it is definitely important to call the equipment, the pieces, the correct nomenclature and the correct name. So I'll give you a prime example. Somebody, everybody up here in New England, it seems like, calls everything a furnace. Oh, my furnace went out. My furnace went out. Even though they might have a steam boiler or just a regular hydronic boiler, they all call it a freaking furnace, right? So in my mind, a furnace is a forced hot air, either gas or oil-fired piece of equipment, right? A boiler, of course, is a hydronic system, right? Or a steam boiler, right? So you tell me, oh, my furnace went out. I don't know what's going on, right? You got me trying to diagnose it. There's different things for a gas-fired furnace that I would be looking for and trying to help you with versus a oil-fired boiler, right? So that's my tip of the day, Sunday, is know when to call for help, right? That's important. And knowing the names and terms of the equipment and the parts that you are working on. So start getting familiar. If you're not familiar already with all these parts and pieces, get familiar. You definitely have to put it forth effort on your own. So let's just say you're working on a gas-fired furnace for the day, right? That's what you worked on today. Snap a picture of the model, serial number of the unit, right? Which you should have anyway if you're downloading the manual. And then later on, not while you're at work, right? But later on, when you're off of work, pull that manual up, right? In there's a section, it's a parts breakdown, right? In that parts breakdown, 99% of equipment has one. In that parts breakdown, it's usually going to have either photos or drawings of what all the parts of that piece of equipment look like. And then there's also going to be a little a chart or a key that tells you the names of those parts, right? So, get off work, pull up the manual, spend 5 minutes just looking at the parts breakdown to see what the parts look like. You were already working on it, so hopefully in your mind you can remember some of this stuff. You could also take the covers off the furnace, stand back and snap a picture. Then when you go home at night, pull up the parts breakdown, right? Look at what the parts look like, look what they're called, look back at your photo and find the parts. Oh, that's a draft proving switch right there. That's what that looks like. Okay, there's the gas valve right there. There's a draft inducer motor right there. All right, so this is going to help you, right? You have to put forth the effort after work. You have to continue your education. I've been doing this, it's going on 10 years. Going on 10 years. In December will be 10 years. And I still learn new stuff every day, right? I still pull up manuals and read. So it's never, your education's never over. Continue learning. And I know I've said it before, but as an apprentice or a new guy, if you're going to wait to learn everything on the job, it's going to take you 10 years to learn this job. So pay attention at work and spend 15 to 30 minutes a day after work reviewing some of the stuff that you did throughout the day, right? And that's how you're going to review it. You know, stop, take a picture, get the model and serial number. When you get home, look at the manuals, right? Read the sequence of operation that's in that manual. Look at the parts breakdown that's in that manual so you can see what the parts look like. See what that manufacturer calls those specific parts. And then look back at your photos and see if you can identify those parts on the equipment you were working on, right? You know, that's what I did when I started out. If I was installing a boiler for the day, I went home and I did some research on boilers. If we were working on a walk-in cooler, I went home and that's what I did. I looked at walk-ins and refrigeration stuff because that's what I did that day. So Sunday, that's my tip. Yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. All right, see you.